Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. Thank you so very much for giving me this your moment. If you noticed, the posting of this video probably followed or precedes one that came the same day. And that is because the love of truth for you, the brothers and sisters of the world, is so overwhelming that the knowledge keeps flowing. And as one perceives a little clearer than that perceived earlier, then he comes back on his way to help us all. Now, I want to talk to you straight up. I want to tell you stuff that you perhaps have never heard before. And my purpose for telling you this is not to frighten you, but to enlighten you, so that you might recognize who you are and become alive in yourselves. You are a special individual, you are a special person, and you have a uniqueness that is required in the process of life. And you must play your role, and nothing must hinder you from playing your role. However, we're living in a matrix that suggests that you are built in a way that you have the choices. You have the choices that leads you down either path of life. And life itself has a opposite end. It has what we might refer to as good. It has what we might refer to as evil. One we might call God. One we might call the devil. And so in a different relationship, we might look at it and say it is the man himself that has within the two different spirits. The spirit of doing good and the spirit of doing evil. And what is it all about? It's about being where you required to be in order to have your heaven. You might have heard me say these things before, but I'm sure you heard me say it in a different kind of way than I'm saying it today, because it sounds even strange to me, but just as exciting, and that is why I stand here, to give this time to my brothers and sisters of the world. I started earlier contemplating this moment, and I wanted to call it Christianity is a Lie. And I know that everybody who represents a faith opposite Christianity would feel good to hear that. And the Christians would be pissed. And so what I really want to do is make a clarity in that. What I would say about Christianity, I would say it about all religions. And I say religion is a lie. It's all fake. It all has its talking points. But I would also like to say to you who might be listening, that when it started out, it was to be good. It was to be divine when it started out. But like most things, when given the choice of right or wrong, or left or right, many times it goes the way it hasn't been going. And that's where the test comes. What choice will you make? What side of the fence do you ride on? Where are you in the expressions of your day? One might say, well, I see things this way, and another say, I see it this way. And they both appear to have some opposition towards the other, and they cause pain and suffering to others. And yet, it is all that the mind has been able to comprehend, absent, being choked of love, the understanding of self. You, my friends, I don't want to take all of this time to give you all the message, so I'm just going to cut it short so that maybe you'll be interested in coming back to find out what I had to say additionally. Here's what it is. Imagine a relationship. A husband, a wife. Imagine that. Everything is going good. But it's not just one husband, one wife. There are many families. And imagine that out of the ordinary, when everything is going good, somebody approaches what you might call an area that they should not be approaching. And this, a spouse, I'm not trying to identify, but a spouse. And they say to the other one, you and I can do better than that. Because we are special. I can do more. We can do more. And you know how that story goes. Many times it's pushed off, shrugged away. A lot of times it's bought. And when it's bought, something happens. It's always discovered. The relationship is always exposed. The key now is, what do you do about it? How do you respond to a situation like that? How do you respond when you've been cheated on? If you've lived according to the ways that produce peace, prosperity, and joy, and all of a sudden you start going another way because you think it puts you in a position to say that you're better because you got more of what everybody needs. Then you got ways to block it so that they can have less, and all of a sudden, rather than being able to exercise the true powers of life, you got to follow a crooked one. A one that leads daily toward the opposite of good to evil. Opposite from the love to hate. The opposite from life to death. But it is by choice. So, what you have in yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, is a will to make a decision about what you're going to do. You're going to go one way or the other. True, we live in a situation where you don't know too much about good. You know, well, you've been told that if you want to know what's good, you think about doing unto others as you have others to do unto you. So you think about what you want done to you, you place that to others, and they can give you a pretty good idea of what good is. And then with that idea also clapping you side your head saying you can have more if you do this. You can have more if you do this. And see, the one who's talking that is doing that. The one who's talking that is doing that. All of a sudden, the spouse that was cheated on has to make a decision. Do you try to please what you want to hold on to, which is your spouse, or what's right? Well, if you're trying to please your spouse, you might go on and do what has to be done to please him, which is the opposite of pleasing what's right. Because you don't want to lose her. Now your mind is clouded. Your mind is, did I say lose her? No, I mean lose the spouse. Now your mind is clouded. How do you respond? Well, ask yourself that. How would you respond? Would you go, do what you have to do? Somebody come and mess with you and break up your home? Would you do that? Or would you say, so be it? Well, that's what you'll find yourself in life, ladies and gentlemen. Because you have to make that decision. You will always, before you can live, you have to make that decision. Is it right or wrong that you choose? Is it good or bad that you choose? Good represents the breath that is required for each of you to live. Is the same breath that is required for each of you should have. Whatever is required for your survival, whether it's food, like a breath of air, everybody needs it. Clothing and shelter, like a breath of air, everybody needs it. Education, like a breath of air, everybody needs it. Health care, like a breath of air, everybody needs it. And how can that breath of air be fed? It can be fed coming from the source, but how can it get to each of us from the source? It's when each of us put our hand to the plow and apply ourselves in a choice of our own careers, what gives us the greatest measure, and produce all of the air in the food production and in clothing and shelter production and the education and healthcare production. That is the way it was meant to be, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the way that you have the power to make the choice to do. Now, we're living in a world where what I just told you, you don't know anything about that. That is as foreign to you as French to you who speak English. You've had English drilled into you. If I say parlez-vous français, you don't know what I said. And it would take a while. I just can't say it to you and tell you what it means, and you're going to remember that. It's going to take a while for you to study that, have a concentration towards that, seeking that before you really get that. And you can't do that overnight. It can happen miraculously, but it will take the Spirit of the true God to touch you in such a way that only it can satisfy your hunger. Now, that's what we call a miracle, and that can happen. But, hey, and here we have this other choice. You all got that. It's in each of you. Now, what you must have answered is this. You know, as a matter of fact, that if any of you decided to stand up on the rightness that you understand, not the rightness of what is out there, but just on that limited amount that you understand, everything will turn around for you. In a positive sense, it's because you are being led by a spirit that gives you the authority to do that. But on the other sense, man, you better watch it. Woman, you better watch it. Now, the truth of that is this. If you want to choose good over in the wilderness of good, evil will knock on its door. And if it comes in, goodness will kick it out. There's no room for evil in goodness. No room. No room at all. Likewise, on the other side of evil, there is no room for goodness. No room for goodness. Now see, when you speak evil into goodness, the reason it can get kicked out because it's abnormal. It can't hide. When you put goodness over on evil side, it can't hide. It stands out. And evil says, in order to stay over here, you got to change your mind. You can't be rocking no boats. And evil has made a believer out of the human race. So the human race will come up with religions that separate themselves. Everybody, rather than having that same end, that same conclusion, that same power working all over the creative process, it's going different ways. Separating yourselves, trying to pull truth apart. One over here with one truth, another here with another truth and another truth, and they all separated, out doing anything that the normal world does. That's because that evil side of the man, of the person, has led them away from the truth. Led them away from that which works for all. And that which works for all, excuse me, can only do what it does because it does not rock the boat. You can help charity, but you can't get rid of the need. You can, like they say, if I just help one somebody, well, what do you think you've done? You help one somebody. They tell you that you're playing a game. If you help one somebody and then at the same time, do not turn yourself away from the effort and the initiative to help everybody that's in a position like that. Oh, then you're looking good. So here you are in the middle of this thing. You got this choice to make. Now, to stand up on evil, you got to go. The power of yoke will not allow you to stay where you're not wanted. And if you're not going to yield, you got to go. And here's the hard thing about it. You can't, at this stage, defend yourself in any other way. Not only can't you defend yourself in any other way, you don't want to. In other words, if you can't help the people who are experiencing the pain, if you can't help the people that's going through the suffering, if you can't, then you give everything you got to. Because when I say got to, I'm talking about to bring about that change. Evil going to take you out. But here's the reward, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the reward. I'm going to tell you this. You ain't got to believe it. If you allow them to kill you because you will not accept or play a game or have your hand tied up in evil, you don't die. You change clothes. The thing about it is that you put on, I want to say, a suit of this, represents this you here. But I can't really say that because I don't know that. But what I do know is that you don't have any connection or understanding of anything about all of this that you've gone through. None whatsoever. You become a continuation of what a person that would give their life for wonderfulness, for beauty and joy, deserves to be born into. And so that's what you're actually doing. It might be like an early birth through what we understand, or it might be a cycle where you have always been, and now there you are again in it. You don't lose. You can't lose. Good can't lose. But evil is always there. Everything that the power of love has given humankind as a benefit, if it can be corrupted, it has. People talking about the weather, talking about HAARP, and HAARP might be used to destroy humankind for the benefit of the ones who want to play God on earth. And you say, well, some of you don't believe that. Some of you believe that it is the hand of God. I say it doesn't matter in any situation. It could be the hand of God, and if it's the hand of God, I hope you can wake up before all humankind is covered up with water. I hope it's before then. Or all humankind is consumed in fire. I hope it's before then. Or if you say, no, it is coming from man. Man did create HAARP for the purpose, and now it's either out of control or it's being controlled to really consume a greater percentage of us. Then even there, it is an indication that you should reap what you sow. It is an indication that it is the fruit of the seed that was planted. And so everybody is guilty, those who planted the seed and those who watered it. Who watered it? Those who said, well, I don't want to get shot. I don't want to die yet. You find some excuse to cut life off. And this is what we have done as a race of people all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we have done. We have chosen to get another little day here in this hell that we ourselves created, that we ourselves can change if we want to decide and make a determination that maybe peace is better than the threat of war and terrorism. Maybe prosperity for all is better than some rich and poverty and the crime and violence that comes from it, and the jails and prisons that are produced in fear that is used to separate people. Oh, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better to have everybody educated to the extent that they can understand that life is unlimited. There are no limitations except those that we put on ourselves. Let us know we must be satisfied that healthcare is here for that golden purpose. And we assure ourselves of this because, first of all, it's good. Nobody's left out. And it produces it for everybody. And the way we truly assure that is put our hands to the plow. And I'm saying it can't be bad. You've heard that, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard it. The message that you've heard, use it for what it is. Use it for what it's worth to you. I'm going to go now. I really thought I would be speaking longer, but I want to talk about this again sometime, so I hope I didn't speak boringly. Until next time, this is Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights. If I wanted to put it to you clearly, I want to say I'm speaking from the pillar of love to you. And the reason that I'm bold enough to tell you that is because I have never ever in all of my life lived and heard a speaker speak about peace and prosperity and joy like I've shared it with you for everybody on earth. Not condemning people who have been led astray to do the things that they do, which have been some painful things. But not condemning them for it because they were taught to be who and what they are, just as we have been taught to be who and what we are. And it is the new birth that is and has the power that will change us to grow into something of virtue. So, bye-bye.